In traditional finance, contracts between transacting and interacting entities are mediated by third parties. So if Alice wants to send Bob some money, a third party is required to mediate the transaction, which is effectively a contract or an agreement. This applies to borrowing, lending, and all kinds of operations. The third party often extracts value because there is no accountability, resulting in a moral hazard. In decentralized finance, smart contracts are mediated, audited, and executed by computer code within the Ethereum virtual machine on the Ethereum decentralized network. As a result, there is an upper bound that is placed on greed with the proof-of-stake consensus algorithm. In contrast, there's no upper bound on greed with traditional contracts. With this in mind, we can understand how financial institutions like banks are simply traditional contracts that facilitate the deposition of value from collateral and its redemption at some point in the future. More broadly, these can be classified as vaults. Vaults are structures that aggregate assets to be functionally deployed into investments. In TradFi, this is carried out by individuals at these institutions whose job is to decide where to deploy capital or value into investment modules like private equity or venture capital, and also to set the terms of recovery. So these are two actions facilitated by traditional contracts in this context. The third action is the minting and burning of notes, which is generally not an area of scrutiny in TradFi. Out of these three possible sets of action, the greatest amount of attention is directed towards the rules of investment, which is the deployment and recovery of capital. Strategies include fractional reserve banking, which effectively is the creation of money that doesn't actually exist. Such abuses of power have contributed to atrocities like wealth inequality because the rich have made themselves richer. And again, this comes down to incentives and contracts, where all actions are liable to value extraction and moral hazard because humans are greedy, and can't do evil is better than won't do evil. That's why we prefer smart contracts. So in contrast to this picture, DeFi has no middlemen, and so value extraction is limited. Because every transaction is governed by smart contracts, autonomous financial behavior can be configured into the system. As such, the financial institutions and banks are replaced by mechanized vaults governed by smart contracts to automate functionality. In DeFi, investment modules are composed of entities like DAOs, and they can be a great place to deploy capital, but we can actually ignore these to motivate certain financial behaviors. For example, a vault will mint one note token whenever one DAI or USDT is deposited into it. Likewise, burning a note token will allow the user to redeem either one DAI or USDT. Instead of a liquidity pool characterized by the constant product function, the equilibrium becomes much simpler. We establish a constant sum condition. So what might lead one to deposit DAI or USDT? If the price of DAI happens to be less than USDT, arbitrageurs will be depositing the DAI and minting a note that can be burned and then redeemed for USDT. Capturing the difference is their incentive, and because DAI is removed from circulation, more USDT is brought into circulation. This constant sum condition can have the added effect of stabilizing pegs across stablecoins. This mechanism has the tendency to promote a $1 spot price for the note. However, the main reason will be that the note will be worth $1 is because it is backed by the mechanized vault itself, which is a conveyor belt of what are known as senior tranches. Senior tranches are A-tranches that are redeemable for $1 each. So what is a senior A-tranche and why are they redeemable for $1? A tranche is a slice of risk. So if we begin with 100% risk of an asset, then we can use DeFi smart contracts to slice that risk further. An A-tranche, the senior tranche, is the safest slice of risk because it contains only 20% of the total risk. On the other hand, Z-tranches, also called junior tranches, contain 80% of the total risk. The button zero smart contracts give tranche tokens special properties such that they're equal to $1 each. And this is how risk can be segmented through space. With tranches, risk is also spread out over time. Once the risk has been sliced on day 0, the fresh tranche can be custodied in a smart contract for 28 days, for instance, at which time it becomes mature and is redeemable. At maturity, the tranches are paid out in a waterfall fashion. So if the tranches lose value over the 28-day period, the junior Z tranches are the first to lose value, and the senior A tranches are the first to pay out, leading them to be insulated from 80% loss of value. More specifically, it can drop no more than 8% per 24-hour period. How can this be? This is possible because the asset from which these tranches are sliced is an elastic rebasing asset. For most assets, changes in demand induce a change in price, but not so in this case. Instead, rebasing assets register changes in quantity or supply. Its supply and therefore value can drop no more than 8% per 24 hours. And so, this asset, AMPL, can be used to denominate stable contracts. Consequently, AMPL will be tranched, and the Senior A-Tranches will be rotated into the Mechanized Vault to sustain the collateralization of $1 spot notes. So long as the market dynamically rotates out the mature A-Tranches for fresh A-Tranches, spot will function as a note that is perpetually redeemable for $1. If the rotations stop, spot degrades into AMPL. Degradation, runnability, incentives, and more are discussed in the official white paper. What is the price of AMPL? The price of AMPL hovers around $1 because it is an elastic rebasing asset. As a result, AMPL can be adopted as DeFi's decentralized unit of account. Specifically, AMPL targets the 2019 Consumer Price Index Adjusted USD, which is currently trading at $1.13. So, at least according to this metric, the US dollar has inflated by 13% since 2019. Because spot is a derivative of AMPL, spot emerges as an inflation-resistant store of value. Moreover, it is a decentralized and censorship-resistant alternative to centralized and censorable stablecoins like USDC and outright dangerous investments like USD Terra. The AMPL spot system brings the fourth DAO, which governs the AMPL fourth protocol, closer to its mission of creating a safer, more resilient financial ecosystem. If you have been hurt by inflation, grabbing a bag of AMPL might not be such a bad idea. Not financial advice.